Good morning. The sun is extremely bright out the window over here this morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Oh my goodness. All right. Sorry, it's taking me a minute. I'm a minute or so late getting started this morning. But it's delightful to see everybody who is not quite here yet. But it'll be delightful to see everybody as people join. It's Wednesday morning. As I'm recording this, here's the cat. She heard me talking. She's come on up. Oh, she failed. It was a missed attempt. Good morning to you. I'm gonna talk about initiation this morning, spiritual initiation. What do I mean by that? And in general, like everything, there's different perspectives, and I'm going to give my perspective. And what I'm not necessarily, I might touch on it. I'm not going to talk about like initiation ceremonies where you join an organization. That is an initiation, right? Initiation just means there goes the cat. Initiation means to begin, to start something, right? But really what I want to focus on today are the initiations that come from spirit. My perspective, which is not the only perspective, and let's be clear, I never present my perspective as the only perspective out there. My perspective is colored by my own experiences, particularly in shamanism. And so that will be the flavor. Sort of like, Thai food has lots of different flavors, but you can sort of identify it as Thai food, right? Because it has some similar flavors. So this chat will have my particular flavor. That's a long way of me explaining this is all my perspective, and you're welcome to your own perspective. And I'm going to talk about initiation because it's a really important, it's a really critical topic. And what happens for me a lot of times with these lives is, good morning if you're just joining, nice to see you all. What happens to me with these lives very frequently is something will come up in my life with my clients, something I'll encounter, and it'll be repeated. Some might refer to these as rhymes, like a rhyme in a poem is something that sounds alike, right, from line to line, usually has the same ending, right? So rhymes in spirituality are when like the same topics or the same things keep happening over and over again in a short period of time. There's some synchronicity there, kind of thing. So initiation has been coming up for me a whole lot recently. So personally, I believe that I am going through an initiation right now, having a big life transition, which is sometimes a marker of initiation. My daughters, I have twin daughters, and they both went to college last week, and so I'm like instantaneously an empty nester, right? And that is a really weird transition for me. Right before that happened, my girlfriend and I broke up amicably. We're still friends, we're still talking, but it was the end of a relationship. So there were like all of these endings to things that were kind of happening and coming up, and a bunch of stuff on top of that, just challenging times. And so we'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about shamanic crisis or shamanic illness. I'm going to talk about what it's like to go through. This is not the only initiation I've been through, trust me. And this one's not that bad. And by bad, I mean good, but I mean hard, difficult, challenging. Initiation is not easy. Think about being born, right? You probably don't remember being born, but chances are it was not an easy experience for you. It was a completely different, you are like warm and comfortable in the womb, and then all of a sudden thrust into this bright, and here's Phoebe, this bright and unforgiving and cold world, right out of nowhere. It was a pretty harsh transition, right? And you know, it's for the best. You can't stay there, right? It's time. It's time for you to move on. It's time for you to be born. Likewise, from my perspective, death is also an initiation. It's the beginning. It's an ending. There's always an ending before the beginning. It's an ending. It's an ending of this temporal physical life, but it's the beginning of something different and new, right? And so initiations, many ceremonies that are done for initiation. So I'm not specifically talking about initiation ceremonies today, but initiation rituals, initiation ceremonies simulate a death and rebirth experience. You can think about the baptism ceremony from Christianity. Many people call it being born again, right? Particularly some churches where they submerge you in water and then pull you back out. It was very much a rebirth experience. That's important. It seems to be spiritually and psychologically important. Death is but a something. A doorway. Oh yes, 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 yes. For sure, for sure. And in shamanism, if you depending on the school that you practice in, you will experience your own death over and over and over again, and to the point where you're like, okay, it's really no big deal. Like, I get it. It is, there's a finality to this physical form. This physical body will die someday. This mind will go with it, but the consciousness that is within doesn't ever dissipate, right? It changes, but it doesn't go away. It doesn't die. And the spirit, which is pure, unadulterated, uh, and really hard to describe, is eternal and timeless. So there is no death for spirit. But in this human form, I will experience that and have had experiences of that over and over again. In some shamanic cultures, having a near-death experience is like an indicator that you are chosen for training, chosen to become a shaman. You're initiated by spirit. In shamanism, initiation is done by spirit. You might go through a ceremony, you might go through ritual, you might go through practice and training and all of those things, but spirit initiates you. So let me talk a little bit about what it's like. It's hard. So I had my main teacher in shamanism, the lovely and wonderful Dory Cody, who is now retired from teaching, and is writing her memoirs, and I can't wait to read them. But what an amazing teacher. But I went to her one day and I said, Dory, I thought of a metaphor for initiation, and I wonder if I could share that with you, and you tell me if you think I'm spot on. Good morning, party people. Yeah, we're having an initiation party this morning. Go make a living in the 1,582nd. Oh, inches. Sorry, you've died so many times. Yeah. Yeah. I completely, I can understand that. Here's Phoebe. She's hopefully going to calm down a little bit. She's been a little hyper this morning. So would you consider surgery around timely breakthroughs in your practice as an initiation of sorts? Sure. Yes. Example, learning big new gifts of yours, then bam, ASAP surgery needed like teeth. Yeah. Yeah. Stuff like that absolutely can happen. I mean, I can't speak for you. I can't speak whether you are going through, only you and spirit can say whether you're going through initiation, but it sounds to me like usually with initiation. Oh, so let me go back to my, I promise I'm going to tie what you're saying into this because, but it brought me back to what I was talking about. Pardon me. I'm really allergic to my cat. And so I start like coughing a little bit and my nose itches and I might start sneezing. So if that happens, it's okay. Still love my cat. She's absolutely delightful. She's such a sweetheart. And my dog too, but my dog's not in the room. Don't mean to leave you out, Juno. You're a sweetheart too. Okay, so talking to my teacher, I said, I've got this metaphor for initiation that I want to share with you, and you can tell me if you think, would you give me your opinion and tell me if you think it sort of fits? And she said, sure. And I said, so, you know those snow globes, those plastic globes that they sell at tourist shops with like a cityscape or something in it, and it's got little plastic snow and you can shake it up and it gets all snowy? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So initiation is like putting your life into one of those and then taking it to a paint store and putting that into a paint mixer that mixes paint by shaking the crap out of a can. And she's like, she laughed and she goes, accurate. Or something to that effect. I don't remember the exact words, but she's like, yeah, that, sort of confirmed that that's spot on. So yeah, so very often, yeah, there are no coincidences when you're waist deep with spirit. So, and knowing that doesn't necessarily mean you can do much about it, but go with the flow. And I'll talk about that quite a bit today too. Is there any typical length of time of initiations go on for? Nope. Sorry. If I was like, oh, initiation, that'll last a month, or it'll last a week, or it'll last 3 hours. All of those things could be correct. Or a year, or 10 years. I don't know. There's no, spirit works on its own time frame. Unfortunately. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you. I'm sorry I'm itching so much. My cat is in my lap, and I think I need to take meds before I, I think I need to take some medication before I do these things, and the cat jumps up in my lap. But my nose is itchy now. I might sneeze. I might cough a little bit, get the sniffles. I'm not sick. Totally fine. The great ongoing, yeah. So the lesson of initiation is surrender, right? And I was talking to a client who's going through a pretty heavy initiation right now. Oh my gosh, now my dog wants to go out. Of course, she just went out, so I'm going to ignore her for a few minutes. Talking to a client the other day who's going through a pretty heavy initiation right now. And she's like, I want it to be over. Like, I want to push through it and get it to be over like as soon as possible, but it's also too much for me to handle right now, or it feels like it's on the edge of too much for me to handle right now. And I'm like, yeah, first of all, if it's helpful, think of initiation like surfing, right? The waves are coming and you can go with them, but you can't make them come faster. And you also can't head into them because it's going to, slap you down. So you can't try to control the waves. It's not going to happen. All right. I'm sorry. I have to get up for just a moment to let my dog out. The whing's a little bit too much. I promise I'm still here. I'm not abandoning you. I'm still talking about initiation. This happens every time, doesn't it? You have to go out just because you bring the top instead of people. All right. Here you go. Here you go. So I'm gonna play for a little bit. Go play. All right. Sorry. Oh no, so unprofessional of me. I never claimed to be a professional, not at this anyway. I'm back. My dog is out. Hopefully she'll stay out for a little while, although I may have to get up again and let her in. So anyway, so she's going through this hard time. She's like, I really want to push through it and have it come to a conclusion faster. You cannot control the timing of initiation. You cannot control when it happens. You cannot control how long it happens. You will not know how long it's going to go on for. Right? Those things, those ideas, beliefs that I have about initiation from my own personal experience and from my clients and from other people I know and students, that doesn't sound very comforting, right? But what I do know is that initiation ends. It doesn't go on forever. If you have something that doesn't end, if you have like an ongoing illness. So shamanic illness, when somebody who is chosen for shamanism, for example, gets ill, it is usually intense. It may go on for it can go on for a long period of time. It can go on for several years sometimes, but is usually intense and somewhat like if it's a true shamanic illness, it'll be mysterious. You won't know where it's coming from or why, and it'll be short term. It's not a lifelong. A lifelong illness is a lifelong illness, right? Something you have that um, you have certain physical things that are going on. So that's sort of the difference with an initiation. Initiation is intense. It will bring with it it can bring with it physical things. It can bring with it a breakdown in your life circumstances, right? Like breakups, divorces, crazy stuff happening in your life, um, right? So what is the purpose? Let's talk a little bit about. So initiation is sort of an intense, crazy time in your life that is, and sometimes if you're not aware of it, you won't even know you're going through initiation. It's just like, why is my life falling apart? Why is everything that I was clinging to coming to an end? And there's a hint there to the purpose of initiation. Initiation is meant to break old patterns, old spiritual patterns, old psychological patterns. It is meant to, in shamanism, there is an initiation called a dismemberment, where you are taken apart, not physically, obviously, where you are taken apart, and you are taken apart so that you can be reassembled in with a different makeup, with different spiritual abilities, different spiritual wisdom, different vibratory patterns, all of these things. That's what initiation is doing. Initiation is preparing you for something, for a phase, to gain wisdom, to gain power, to gain insight. Good morning. Good morning to you. Nice to see you. We're talking about initiation this morning. Thank you for the shares. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the follows, all of that. Thank you for you. Thank you for being you and for being here this morning. So we're talking about initiation. Initiation, how do I know when I'm going through initiation? Because I've been through a lot of them. And in the beginning, I didn't know. I was like, what is going on? My entire life is falling apart, right? Entire life is falling apart, going through mysterious illness, going through emotional problems, going through all of this stuff. And what happens with initiation is you come out of it on the other side. There might be a single breakthrough or a number of breakthroughs or something along those lines, but you will feel more powerful when you come through on the other side. You are so welcome. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for everything. And thank you for being here and listening to me ranting about initiation. Yeah. So it takes you apart to rebuild you. It's sort of like, if you bring your car in to be repaired, right? Your car's not running correctly, right? They might have to take part of your car, and hopefully not your entire car, but they're going to take part of your car apart to diagnose and clean and repair, and then they're going to put it back together. So initiation is there's a few things that we can think of initiation. Initiation is a little death and rebirth experience. It is also a dismemberment and a rememberment, right? We call it remembering, to be put back together. Please remember me. It's like when we remember things, right? Remember me. In shamanism, there is an expression. I don't know which culture it comes from, but it's very common in shamanism, particularly these days, called becoming the hollow bone, right? If you think about a bone that you can hollow out and take the marrow and stuff out of the center of the bone, it becomes like a tube. And that is a metaphor, becoming the hollow bone. In some shamanic cultures, they actually use hollow bones for certain ceremonies. But it is a metaphor in this case for becoming a clearer channel for spirit to work through. That is the job of the shaman to walk in both worlds, but to bring spirit, not just to like access spiritual worlds, but to bring spirit into this world for healing, particularly for healing, but for other purposes as well, but particularly for healing. So in order to do that, you have to be initiated over and over, probably over and over again. Why? Because we have a lot of crap. We have a lot of crap. We have a lifetime of crap, right? We have many lifetimes of crap. We have cultural crap. We have educational crap. We have crap from our family of origin. All of that stuff is going on. We have an ego. Holy crap, we have an ego, right? What is ego? Ego is this collection of stories that we have, collection of beliefs and stories that we have about who we are. So when I say I'm this guy, I am this body, I'm 52 years old, I live in Maine, blah blah blah, I've got 2 kids, I got this, I got that. Those are stories about who I am. Now we might agree on whether or not those stories are true, but they're stories. We have other stories that affect our ego, like I'm unlucky at love, or I'm I'm wounded, or I am this, or I am that. Anything that you say I am, and there's something that comes after it, I am whatever, is a story. What is true, this is some complex stuff. This is some deep stuff, but what is true is just saying I am. And there's a meditation that I lead where people just say I am over and over again and follow that thought inward into your core to get a sense, a feeling of what you truly are below the ego, right? So you cannot be what you have, right? You cannot be what you have. I have a coffee cup. I am not a coffee cup. I have a body. I am not this body. I have thoughts. I am not my thoughts. I have emotions. I am not my emotions. So what am I? Right? And that's the question that we ask to get to. Initiation helps with that because it should loosen our attachment to ego. The more you cling to your ego, the harder the initiation is going to be. Initiation is trying to break our bonds with ego. I don't talk about ego death. Some teachers do. Some spiritual systems talk about ego death, killing off the ego, or what have you. I don't talk about it that way because the ego is a tool. It's an important tool. It just needs to be put in its place, right? I just need to understand that these ideas, about this collection of ideas and beliefs about who I am, are not who I am, right? I have a name, but I'm not my name. People would say, in English, it's so weird. We don't say my name is, or I am called. We say, I am John, right? But I'm not. That's a name. That's a label. That's a pointer. And it's a pointer, generally speaking, for people who associate me with this body and this mind. The problem with that is this is not the same body and mind I had yesterday or the day before or the day before. This body and mind is constantly in a state of change. This isn't the same body I had 10 years ago or 40 years ago, right? I had, when I was a child, I had my lower leg amputated. Good morning to you. My dear friend is here. So happy to see you. Hope you're enjoying. Wow, it's like sunny and beautiful. A little chilly out this morning, which is cool. It's starting to get fallish here, which is delightful. I might be one of those basic people, but I live in New England, and you either you either ski or like you live for the fall. Fall is like the end of tourist season, but like the foliage starts to turn and the smell changes in the air. And the farm I live next to has started harvesting pumpkins already, which is crazy. Seems a little early. They're still harvesting corn, but they've started harvesting pumpkins already. So it's that time of year. There's a I don't drink a lot. I drink like black coffee is my drink of choice, but there's one time a year where I make an exception to that. And Starbucks has a chai latte with pumpkin cold foam, and that's like the froofiest thing I drink. It's fantastic. Sometimes when I get stuck arguing with my ego, I'll tell it, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always had. That out of the box idea gets me to want to expand. Yes. Absolutely. Stay safe. Yes, absolutely. I get it. Yeah, it's nice to have the windows open, right? Katie lives here in Maine as well, so nice to see you. Yeah, Sophia, my daughter Sophia turned me on to that. It's, oh my God, I love chai anyway, but it's funny to say chai. Like I worked with, I used to work in a company with people from all over the world, and I worked with this Russian guy, and I was like, "Oh, do you like chai?" He's like, "Yeah, I drink chai every day." I'm like, "You drink chai every day?" Chai is the Russian word for tea. Like half of the world, chai is the name of tea, and the other half it's tea. So when you say chai, you're just saying tea in some countries. Anyway, got to get up and let my dog in. Apologies again. Hopefully this will be the last time this morning. We'll see. Oh my gosh. So, oh my goodness. All right. Yeah, so our ego, we'll talk about ego a little bit because it is relevant to what I'm talking about this morning. Thank you for being patient with me. Nice to see you as well. Yeah, I think it's a chai latte with pumpkin cold foam. I don't know that it's something on the menu, but they you know how you can like order stuff. A few weeks back I got a pretty bad cold, and my daughter's like, go to Starbucks. They know all these like things that aren't on the menu. They're like, go to Starbucks and order a medicine ball. I'm like, a medicine ball? It's like two different kinds of tea mixed together. It actually did help a lot. They're like, oh, we don't call it that because you can't sell something that's called medicine if it's not actually medicine. I'm gonna heat up my coffee here. I'm like, this is one of the best investments I've ever made in my life is this coffee carafe, because I brew my coffee in a pour over thing and it doesn't keep the coffee hot. And so I don't, I'm not going to drink a whole pot of coffee at one time. I might over the course of a morning, but it does allow me to have hot coffee and heat up my coffee and keeps it at a good temperature. I have thermal mugs, but the coffee never cools down. Like it would have to wait 45 minutes to drink my coffee, and then that's too long. I'm impatient. I want coffee now. So let's talk a little bit about ego, because that is relevant to initiation. And one of the things that initiation should do is start to unravel our attachment to our ego, our attachment to the collection of stories about who we are. So ego is, again, it is a collection of stories that tells that about who we are, and it is closely tied to this body and this mind, right? Why? Well, we incarnated, our soul, our spirit decided to attach itself to a body and mind. We were born, and so that we could come into this world and have some experiences. That's it. That's your purpose for being here. Everyone's like looking for this grand purpose. I'm here to whatever. You're here to experience things. You're here to have different experiences. As an emanation of source, of God, what have you, you take on a differentiated being, a differentiated consciousness. We're all part of one big consciousness, but we take on this thing, this identity, and then when we're born, we have there's no sense of separation between us and the rest of the world. We have sensations, we've got hunger or cold or whatever, we cry, and then our parents start to feed us, and we start to learn, oh, I'm different than the world, and the world is very threatening. My needs have to be met externally. I can't meet my own needs. Good morning. Oh, thank you so much. That is such a lovely thing to say. You have an amazing day as well. So we start to learn things. The ego is our conditioned self. There is nothing in our ego that we have not learned, right? There's nothing inherently true about our ego, right? There's nothing that we haven't, I don't think anything about myself that I haven't learned from somewhere. Maybe it's through working things out, knowing when my birthday is, or when they tell me my birthday is. I mean, I've seen my birth certificate. I know when my birthday is and calculating, but how do I know my birth certificate is correct? How do I know anything? How do I know anything? I don't. But I have these beliefs, right? Beliefs are anything I hold to be true. So while I am using this body and this mind to have experiences in the world, it's a really good idea to keep this body and mind alive, right? To keep this body and mind in, relatively good shape. Although I've been eating like crap recently, I've got to clean my eating up. I will, I promise. I'm promising myself that I got to clean my eating back up. It's been a stressful few weeks, so food's probably my drug of choice. Hi, come on. Oh, jeez, the cat. The animals this morning are like, pay attention to me. So it's important to keep this body in my life because I'm using it. But in doing so, we learn that important things are protected. Right? The president gets a Secret Service detail, kings and queens get bodyguards. Important things are protected. They're taken care of. Our children are important. We take care of them. We protect them, or we're supposed to, right? So our ego gives us a sense of self-importance. But it says, you are this body and mind. If this body dies, you die. You go away. You're gone. Oblivion, right? I don't care. Like, you can believe in heaven or whatever. You can believe in afterlife, but there is a part of you that is, for most people, that is deathly afraid. We have the phrase deathly afraid of death, right? There's a part of you. There's a self-preservation part of you. That's not wrong. It's not wrong to want to preserve. It's not wrong. It's just a thing. But the ego tricks us into thinking that if we let go of it, then we are going to perish. And that is not true. We can put the ego in its place. We can understand that it's not really who we are, that who we are is much deeper, much more spiritual, much more eternal, much more infinite, much more connected than this very limited idea about who we are. Right? When we do that, we get superpowers. I don't know what your superpowers are. What are your superpowers? I'm not going to talk about my superpowers because that would just be bragging. Hubris is a sign of ego. So we talk about people, oh, that guy's got a big ego, right? An overinflated a sense of self-importance, right? And that's just measured by opinion and whatever our culture says is important and, that sort of thing, right? We say people have a big ego. We all have big egos. We all think we're, that's, again, it's not wrong. It's not a judgment. There's nothing wrong with you. This is natural. It's an instinct, right? The ego is a collection of things that, that keep this body and mind alive because it says, This is really important. It also keeps us separate from others, right? It doesn't allow us to experience our deep connection with other people because we see them as others. When underneath it all, we are the same consciousness. That can be hard to grok a little bit because most of what comes up in our experience is an individual sense of consciousness. First person subjective experience. That's what they define consciousness as, first person subjective experience. But what if it isn't? What if it's so much more than that? What if it's so much, what if it's infinite? What if it's beautiful? What if it's non-dual, meaning non-duality means not two, meaning there's no, you know, I kind of have this idea that there's me and you, but what if there isn't? What if there isn't me and you? What if we're the same being underneath it all, right? And I'm not telling you that that's the case. That has been my experience of things, right? So I practice shamanism, but I also practice uh, mysticism. I'm an ordained metaphysical minister, and part of my work is in exploring mystical states of consciousness. That I would say that is my what I'm working on my master's thesis, my third master's thesis about, and that's what I'm exploring. And in these mystical states of consciousness, the ego kind of gets really quiet, and boundaries between things try to break down. If you have there are lots of ways to experience this, by the way. Initiation is one. Initiation, if you don't resist it, resisting initiation will make it last longer and make the lessons harder. One. So if you don't resist it, if you go with it, if you surf it, if you in the way to do that really is to accept, to get into a state of acceptance with whatever's going on. That is one way to experience this ego breakdown. There are lots of other ways. One of my favorites is intimacy. When you get really intimate with somebody, I don't necessarily mean sex, but it can be sex, but it doesn't have to be. When you get really intimate with somebody and you gaze into their eyes. Eye gazing is a beautiful practice if you have a partner or a spouse or what have you. It's a great thing to practice. Just sit facing the other person. Place your right hand on their heart. They place their right hand on your heart. You place your left hand over their hand, and you just gaze. You just open up and gaze into their eyes. And it is a beautiful way to connect with somebody, but also the ego will start to break down a little bit. There will start to be less of a difference between you and this other person. You will start to become part of the same event, the same happening, right? You can experience non-duality. There's lots of non-dual meditations out there. I talked earlier, one that I teach quite a bit is just this I am meditation. You just repeat the phrase, and when I say repeat, there's a way that works better than others. You repeat the phrase I am, and you follow that thought I am. Where does it come from and where does it go? I'm not about to sing the Cotton Eye Joe, in case you're wondering. I am. Where is that sense? Where does that feeling of I am originate? And follow that in, follow that in, follow that in, follow that in. The ego will start to loosen up a little bit. So the way to do that is to do it slowly and allow the feeling to resonate, rather than, don't use it like a mantra where you're like chanting I am, I am, I am, I am. Like, don't do that. You can do that if you want. You can do whatever you want, but it's just not going to have the same effect. It's not going to be effective. This is about generating a feeling and tracing that feeling back. Or it's about becoming aware of a feeling. You're not generating a feeling in this case. The I am feeling is at your core. It is a core feeling. This feeling of being, called beingness in some. I don't think we have really good language in English to describe this, unless somebody knows of some, in which case, please let me know. I'm trying to think of better ways to describe this. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you. Nice to see you again. Just lovely. Right. So, what time do we have? Oh, I've got some time. I feel like I've been talking for longer than I have. I've only been talking for 40 minutes. It's one of those mornings. So we're talking about initiation. How do we know? How do we know when we're out the other side? Well, there'll be a big shift. There'll be a big shift in the circumstances of the initiation, like the process will end. So if you've been going through an illness, it will either go away or it will subside, or you will get a handle on it. If it's something else, if it's a depressive episode, you will come out of it. If it's a psychological crisis, you will come out of it. And you will have gained something. I can't tell you what that is because it can be really different. You'll know it. There will be a real knowing that you've gained something, right? Magical powers or wisdom, or when I talk about power, I'll go off on another tangent here, but it is related. Shamans always talk about power. Power gets a bad rap, right? We say power corrupts, all these things. It can. Power is just a tool. Power, from a physical standpoint, is the ability to do work, right? If I have a hammer, that gives me a certain kind of mechanical power, right? It's a long lever with a weight on the end and the surface to strike things with. I can take that hammer, I can take the power inherent in that hammer, and I can go build a house. Or I can go across the street and hit my neighbor over the head with a hammer. The hammer is not corrupting or evil or whatever. It's my intent. It's what I do with it, right? Do I get along with my wife's boyfriend? I don't have a wife, so that's an interesting question. If I had a wife and we had an ethically non-monogamous relationship, I would assume I would probably get along with her boyfriend, but I get along with most people, but I do not. I don't have a wife, so it's kind of a weird question. TikTok is full of just the strangest questions. So anyway, talking about power. So the idea that power is necessarily a bad thing. The same thing with money. Money is just sort of condensed power, right? It's the ability to. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Power is, money gives us the ability to do things. It gives us the ability to purchase things or to donate it or to whatever. And people will say, well, money is the root of all evil. Well, that's not the actual quote. The actual quote is, the love of money is the root of all evil. And what they're talking about is greed, right? So again, it's not inherent in this concept, the spirit. Money has a spirit. The spirit of money, if you want to put it that way, is not evil or corrupting. It's people's intent. It's, people can, what people are willing to do for it and with it and how they use it. And, are they hurting people to get it, or, whatever? Are they hoarding it? That's also not a great thing, right? So it's greed. That's the problem. That's the quote from the Bible, by the way. The love of money is the root of all evil. The Bible talks a lot about greed. It talks a lot about not being charitable as being sins. In fact, when they talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, very often people will, it's where we get the word sodomy from, that the people will talk about the sexual impropriety of the people living in the city. And there are some things there, but when it's talked about in the Bible, they're talking about these people were not kind and they were greedy and they weren't charitable. We skip over that. Why? Because greed is good in this culture anyway. Greed is a wonderful thing. It's amazing. You don't have to be charitable. Just give all your money to the church. We'll take care of it for you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yes, our pastor has a private jet and a fleet of Rolls-Royce cars and a $200 million mansion. Don't worry about it. Just keep sending those checks in. We won't talk about greed. We'll talk about, oh, look at these other people. Look what they're doing. That's bad. That's bad. Look over here. It's a distraction from what the real message is. Anyway, so talking about ego and initiation. So a goal, if there's a goal, an outcome from initiation is that our tie to our identity, to our conditioned identity, the identity we have learned. We've learned from our upbringing, our education, our culture, from social media, right? All of that starts to become less important. I'm not saying it goes away. That would be a lot to ask. Complete ego death is very rare, right? Where you just like, I am just no longer this person. I've seen it. I've seen it with some people. I think I don't know this person personally, obviously. Well, not obviously, but I don't know this person personally. But when I have seen things from Jim Carrey, the actor, the comedic actor, recently, and he's talking about stuff, I'm like, oh, this guy's been through it, right? This guy's been through it. He understands. He's still funny. He still can identify with his name. He can still do this. He's had a very significant unraveling of his ego. Where he's like, there is actually no Jim Carrey. You can call me that. You can use that name, and this body and mind will respond to it. But it's just, this experience is just occurring in this space, and I'm not really even participating in it. In a true non-dual state, you almost feel like you are not participating in the experiences that are arising. Your body and mind. This is the thing about ego tells you, if I don't cling really tight and control this body and mind, then it's going to perish. It will no longer be alive. And that is bullshit. That is how your ego lies to you. When you slip into non-duality, or you get there through meditation or initiation or whatever, your body and mind still do what they do. You just don't feel like it's you doing it. It's very challenging to describe, but you take observer position. Your body and mind are fully capable of taking care of themselves, right? Your body keeps your heart going and eats things, right? Your mind, makes you not walk out into traffic if there's a bus coming down the road or whatever, right? These things take care of themselves. Let them for a while. Relax. Be you. Relax into pure consciousness, into observer state. It's very relaxing. It's exhausting to try to control everything, and you can't. It's futile, right? You can't. With training, you can, but for the most part, you can't. You can't control your heartbeat or your digestion, or your you can't control all of this, or your cellular division. We have no control over those things. We're not even aware of it most of the time. So let it go on the way it is. It'll be fine. You can try it. You can always stop, right? You can oh, I tried this non-duality thing for a while and it didn't really work for me. And in the beginning, meaning for a very long time and perhaps many lifetimes, it'll be challenging to hold on to that state for any length of time. The ego will suck you back in at the first chance it gets. Do I know of any good exercises or meditation that are good for letting go of control? Absolutely. One exercise is to let go of any preferences. And this is more of an exercise than a meditation. So let go of judgments or prejudices. As they come, they'll come up. They're going to come up into your consciousness. Just let them. Let them. Allow. That's the exercise. Allow. Have no preference. As you look around, don't like, and you notice judgments coming up, let the judgment go. That's a really good first stage meditation. Another meditation I like that is more akin to this is sort of a preliminary meditation that like when I lead meditations, and I haven't done this in a while, but when I lead meditation, this is one that I will start with because it relaxes the need to control a little bit. It also relaxes the mind and the body a bit, and so the mind and the body want to pull you into control, into a state of control. So practice letting go of that, practice letting go of preferences. But a recitation that I'll do with people that has seemed to have worked for quite a few people and has a lot of, seems to have a pretty profound effect on a lot of people. And it's one that I do all the time. So it's a meditation, it's a recitation, and it's very simple. It's 3 phrases that I will repeat slowly and feel the feeling that comes up. The following 3 phrases: there's no place to go, there's nothing to do, there's nobody to be. Right? There's no place to go. Just in this moment, while I'm meditating, while I'm sitting on my mat or sitting in my chair or lying down in my bed or whatever position you meditate in, there's no place for me to go. Right? Because the mind is going, dude, you're meditating, but we've got stuff to do. You got to go do the dishes. You got to take care of the laundry. You have to, mow the lawn. There's no place to go. There's nothing to do. There's nobody to be. I don't have to, in other words, I don't have to put effort into anything. I don't have to put effort into being. Right? I just am. This will begin the process of unraveling that need to control. You can do this for 5 minutes. You could do this for 20 minutes, whatever works for you. So there's two meditation. There's an exercise, letting go of preferences and judgments. Let them go. What keeps us attached, what keeps us in suffering, is attachment and aversion. Attachments are things that we cling to. I love my coffee. I'm not letting go of my coffee. And I can squeeze this coffee really tight. Or I can just let it go and put it down over here and know that it'll be there when I need to pick it up. Right? I know that in the universe, there are 90 million Starbucks. Even though I'm not drinking Starbucks coffee, there are 90 million Starbucks, and the universe will provide coffee as I need it. I can almost not run into coffee, not run into coffee in my life, right? So I can let go of this attachment. I can relax, right? Control is about the survival mechanism to cling to that we want. And we cling to the things that we want to hold on to. Excellent. Let me know how they go, for sure. Like, come on here and let me know if you try them, how do they work for you? So that's attachment. Aversion. Oh my God, I don't want that. Hold it away. Push it down. Or sometimes it's internal. Push that down. I don't want that feeling. Cram it down here. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be upset. Doing that holds those things in place. It increases suffering, right? We can have pain without suffering. Suffering is different than pain. Pain is a signal that something needs to be addressed, right? Like I can stub my toe and that hurts and that sucks. And there's pain because it wants to draw my attention and my energy to my toe so that my toe can heal. That's pain. Suffering is, oh my God, my toe, it's the end of the world. How could this happen? I'm not going to think about this pain. I'm not going to experience this pain. I'm going to push it away. I'm averting the pain. Now, let me circle back before I have to sign off for the day. Let me circle back to initiation. If we can get into acceptance with initiation, there will be less suffering. Initiation is going to throw a lot of sucky, shitty, crappy life circumstances at you. It's going to throw perhaps sickness. It's going to throw perhaps the ends of relationships. It's going to throw huge life transitions at you. It's going to throw a breakdown of what you believed to be true. Oh my gosh, talk about attachment to our beliefs. What if you weren't so attached to your beliefs? What if you weren't so attached to your beliefs about who you are? What if everything you think about who you are, including I am this body, I am this many years old, I have blue eyes, I have this many friends, I'm a dad, I'm a teacher, I'm this, I'm that. What if I just said, none of those are inherently true, all of those are beliefs, and beliefs can change? That feels a little like, when I say that, that feels a little threatening to me. What is that threat? What is that threatening feeling that's coming up in the pit of my stomach? That's ego. It's ego acting up. Going, hold on a minute. We have this established idea about who we are. We have this established this paradigm. Your ego is a paradigm, as much as that word is overused and used improperly. It is a set of truths. It's a collection of truths about who you are. Right? There's a whole set of beliefs that have to be not just, my name is John. I'm a 52-year-old dude. I live in Maine. I'm a dad. I'm a teacher. I'm this. I'm that. That's a collection of beliefs, but there have to be a bunch of stuff, a bunch of beliefs under that to support that. Like, I believe I'm sitting in Maine right now. Am I? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. A lot of evidence saying that I am. But I don't know if I'm not a brain in a jar somewhere, like in the Matrix. There's no way for me to know that. So what if I don't know anything? I can still operate my belief system, but what if I don't know anything? That allows me to be less clingy to my beliefs, right? That allows me to change my beliefs if they're not serving me, or discard them, or take on new ones, try on new beliefs, see if they work for me. Most people cannot do that because it is threatening. It feels like an existential threat, right? What if I play with that? What if I play with the stories about who I think I am? Not to misrepresent myself, not to like commit fraud or something like that. Don't do that. But what if, what if I play with that a little bit? There's lots of things you can do. What if I start talking like a pirate every day? What if I, it was interesting. Years ago, it still puzzles me. I was married to somebody from who was born in the Philippines, and in the Philippines is not a monoculture. It's not just one culture. There are lots and lots of cultures, lots of languages in the Philippines. It's an island nation of like 7,000 islands. So there are all of these languages, dialects, cultures. The southern Philippines very different than the northern Philippines. Way more different than in the U.S. Way more than different in the South and the North in the U.S. Completely different language, not just an accent or a dialect. Different languages, different ideas. However, in the culture that I was visiting in Ilocos, so the Ilocano-speaking culture in the Philippines, that my ex-wife's mother was a part of, your family relations depend on more, like they're different than we have them here in the US, right? So my grandfather is my father's father or my mother's father. But in there, a grandfather is anyone in that generational line. So anyone in that generational line, you don't think of them as an uncle or a great uncle or great aunt. They are your grandfather or grandmother. So you might have 20 grandfathers and 20 grandmothers. So I was introduced to this little girl. She was about 4 or 5, and they said, "This is Lolo." Lolo means grandfather, right? So I was introduced to this little girl who I've never met before and didn't know her mom as her grandfather. This is your grandfather. That was a really strange feeling for me, because my kids at the time were like 9, were like 8 or 9. So all of a sudden being called grandpa, but it was because my ex-wife at the time was on the line of the family. It's complex. You have to know lots. You have to know, and what you call people, like if they're a cousin, depends on the birth order of your parents. So if it's a cousin, even though they're older than you in that culture, in other cultures, there are different rules, right? And there are honorifics for older brother, older sister, which you also use with cousins. So it was an interesting thing to be called grandpa. Lolo is grandpa. Lola is grandma. But it was interesting, and I had it. There was a amused, but also like, really, that feels really strange to me, because I didn't grow up in that culture. But if I grew up in that culture, that would feel like an absolute truth to me. There would be no amusement about it. There would be no feeling, right? So, and I would just identify as grandpa, as Lolo. And so that tells us something, that told me something about how my identity, this ego, this who I think I am, was shaped by my culture. Right? Because in this culture, I have a different identity. I'm grandpa, right? Even though I was like, I might have been 40 at the time. And I realize you can be a grandfather at 40 or even younger, but it felt really weird to me because my children were still very young, right? Nowadays, someday I probably will be a grandpa in this culture, but hopefully not too soon. I'm not ready for that yet, but I'll be a great grandfather. Not a great I will someday. I'll be a great grandfather, but I'll be a fun grandfather. Let's put it that way. My grandkids are getting spoiled when I have them. I'm looking forward to that. I love my kids, but I am looking forward to spoiling their kids someday when they have them. And they both want kids, at least so far. So that will probably happen. Anyway, I've got to run for the day, but I've been talking about initiation, talking a lot about ego. They are important. They're interlinked significantly. Initiation is always a death and rebirth experience. It might be a small one. It is not, it's not the greater death that we think of, but it's a dying off of the old to be born into the new. And sometimes spirit will do it to you when you least expect it, when it's incredibly inconvenient. And all of those things are important. Look at them as, before I leave you, I'll leave you with this thought. Like, people get really, really caught up in the day-to-day stuff. And they're like, why would spirit do this to me? Because I'm in the middle of a really difficult project at work. I don't have time for this. Your projects at work in the scope of existence and eternity in the entire universe, like, that's not important. It's important to you. I'm not saying it's not important to you, but perspective and importance. Like, why do bad things happen to me? When it's inconvenient, or when whatever. Spirit wants you to change. Source wants you to change. We are here to have experiences. Once we have had certain experiences, it's going to put us through some stuff so we can have different experiences and approach it from a different perspective. There is a grand scope to these things, and it is challenging to understand when people are like angry at the universe or whatever. because bad things are happening. And if you look around, you can see lots of those things. Um, it is from a very small human-oriented perspective very often, right? And I get it. It can be really hard. It can be hard to get out of that quagmire of how could these terrible things happen? How could a loving um, how could a loving universe allow these terrible things to happen? Sometimes they just happen, and sometimes it's tough love, right? Sometimes it's a difficult situation to prove to you to initiate you. So with that, I'm going to leave you for the day. My love to all of you. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate you all. I love you all. I wish you a great Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. I hope it is all it is cracked up to be for you. And I'm going to enjoy some lovely weather here today. But take care, and I'll talk to you real soon. I don't know if I'm going to do another one of these this week or not. Probably. But thank you, my dear friend, my divinely excellent friend. And